20 seconds and counting.
Hey, what's good, y'all? Welcome back to another video. It's Anish. I'm joined here with Roman and Drew, and today we got some pretty big news. Deshaun Watson will report to the Texans today to avoid being fined $50,000 per day during their training camp. And it's also been reported that Watson's trade request still remains in effect, with source saying nothing has changed in that regard. And under the new CBA, like, holding out is virtually impossible. Players are fined $50,000 each day they missed, and those fines can't be waived off. And also, the player will lose an accrued season towards free agency by failing to show up for camp or leaving camp for more than 5 days. So it kind of seems that Deshaun Watson kind of reported out of obligation more than like willing to be here. But who knows? Lots of things can change. Very slight chance that his mind could change. But what do y'all think that about this recent news?
I feel like you're 100% right in the fact that he kind of showed up because he had to. With the new CBA rules, it kind of implicates things for him. He would have to sacrifice a lot of money to not be there just to make a point that he doesn't want to be here at all. So I feel like while he's coming, there may be a little hope he can change things. And that's exactly what we need, just a little bit of hope. We can get Deshaun Watson in the building. Deshaun Watson gets to meet the new coaching staff, with, of course, there's a lot of new coaches, with the hiring of David Coley and Nick Casario coming in as a new general manager. And then we had 38 signings in free agency and made a couple more moves as of yesterday when we got Anthony Miller, a young, talented receiver from the Chicago Bears. So that's maybe another thing that could excite him. And he's just got to kind of meet all the players, get a feel for the culture. And from there, we can see if he likes it. If he doesn't, we can end up trading him like we were in the first place. There's a lot of implications there with his, legal process too. So he's going to show up, or just kind of see what happens at this point.
Yeah, for me, it's not much of a surprise that he showed up to training camp. Just how you're saying about the CBA laws and all of that, like, it's technically impossible to sit out of training camp. Like, it's no way to hold out, unless you're willing to sacrifice that type of money. But I'm sure not many players would be. But yeah, going on with what Drew was saying, hopefully if he could come in, meet all the new players, meet all the coaching staff and all of that, maybe he could not buy in, but somewhat at least give it a chance. I feel like he will, considering that he's kind of forced to, but considering that he is at least showing up to camp, I do feel like he's going to buy in at least a little bit. He's going to lock in. He's going to be prepared for the season. And over the summer, he's been working out like crazy. He's been preparing like as if he's planning on playing. And a trade is kind of looking unlikely, at least for preseason, or at least before like the new season starts. A trade probably wouldn't happen until next season. So the way he's been working out, it's looking like he's probably going to have to play for us, at least for this year.
Yeah, and the NFL's regular season starts in about 5 or 6 weeks. We still got the legal process going on, so trade is very, very unlikely to happen. And he has been preparing for the season, so it seems as he will be playing week 1 for the Texans. And that kind of, gives us hope, and we can win a lot of games. I want to ask y'all, what do you think a record could be with Deshaun Watson?
Well, I think with Deshaun Watson, this team can probably win at least 8 games at the minimum. This team improved in a lot of areas. You could argue that the wide receiver room didn't really upgrade because we lost Will Fuller, and also the D-line didn't upgrade because we lost J.J. Watt. But I think every other every other positional group improved. Like Casario has been making so many roster moves. I think 40 plus roster moves at this point. I've lost track. It's crazy. So I was just thinking, like, if Deshaun Watson's willing to give this team one last go around, one last chance, then I guess I'd be cool with it, because, you never know. Winning cures all, and who knows if that sentiment is as powerful as it is when it comes to Deshaun Watson and this team, but who knows,
Yeah, my opinion, our team is much better than last year's. We added a bunch more talent, a bunch more low-key names, and we have a bunch of depth. That's one thing that's really not being, I guess, talked about enough. Our depth on our football team is incredible, from O-line depth to D-line depth. We even have a ton of wide receivers. Sure, we don't have like a name that crazy stands out, but we have a bunch of depth, and that's something that you really need to be a successful football team. And that's something that we really didn't have last year, and it showed. We went 4-12 last year, but a lot of the games that we played, they ended up being one-score games. They were very, very winnable. Just some games off the top of my head: the Titans game, the Bengals game, I believe one of the Colts game. There was a bunch of games that were very winnable last year, but we didn't, either due to a mistake or just something like that. So I mean, coming into this year with a much better team, much more depth, Deshaun Watson, I guess, um, probably probably gonna play with like a fire in his heart. He's gonna want to prove a lot of people wrong. So I mean, I believe we could probably go like 9-8, maybe 8-9, somewhere around that range.
Yeah, and the Texans from the past couple of seasons have lacked a lot of consistency, a lot of energy, and a lot of lack of culture. I feel like that's the biggest change that you're going to see from this new roster. You have a lot of proven veterans. You have big names like Desmond King, Philip Lindsay, Shaq Lawson, and of course you lose guys like J.J. Watt and Will Fuller. But how much does that really affect the team? It really just kind of changes their whole philosophy of what they have to do. With J.J. Watt, you saw him move around and play three different positions on the defensive line. When we had Jadeveon Clowney, and we moved them all around the field. This team's going to be a little different. You're going to see them play certain positions, and they're going to have certain jobs, certain roles to where they can be consistent and they won't fall apart in the fourth quarter. They won't go off to a slow start in the first drive or first quarter of the entire game, and you'll see us slowly be able to compete in every single game. I feel like that's why this team can get 9 to 10 wins, sneak into the playoffs. It can be better than a team like the Titans, because a team like the Titans, they lost a lot of pieces on defense. And of course, they got a little younger in the secondary, like Caleb Farley in the draft. You had injury concerns. You got Julio Jones there too. And on the Colts, you got Carson Wentz coming in as their quarterback. And of course, the Jaguars have Trevor Lawrence now. So it's going to be an interesting division. I feel like if Deshaun Watson plays, it's going to be very competitive. And I feel like the Texans should be able to beat those teams. But it's going to take time for this entire team to develop. But hopefully, we can get off to a fast start with Week 1 against the Jaguars.
Yeah, and in terms of like chemistry with the team, just this source by Sarge, he seems to have some kind of connect with the players on the roster, but he did say that like they're completely. They said whatever Four has going on off the field is his personal business. I'm just glad he will be in camp. If it's true, the team will rally around him, especially me, because he has been a big inspiration to me. So like, and is also seen on IG where our players are still like hyping up Deshaun Watson in his workout videos and whatnot. So it seems like they don't really care, or not don't really care, but just waiting to see what the legal process says. And per Josina Anderson, when it comes to like the NFL exemption list, she says that I was told before the weekend the NFL prefers to wait for official findings from authorities in Texas before delivering its own determination on Deshaun Watson. They will not do anything before that, a source said prior to reports of Watson's expected arrival at camp. So I know a lot of people were expecting him to be suspended this season, and so it looks like it's not happening anytime soon, especially with this legal process just taking 1 or 2 years. Like just with the sheer amount of cases, 22 cases, that's just a lot to like all sort out. So by all counts, it seems that Deshaun Watson is going to be playing this season.
Yeah, and absolutely. I feel like there's no way you can really suspend him at this point. You got to trust the process. And if, and when you talk about his teammates, they really feel like Deshaun is their guy. He's been their guy for the past 3 or 4 years, coming in his rookie year, stepping up, making big plays, and he's done that for his entire career. So nobody on the Texans roster wants to lose Deshaun Watson. They want Deshaun Watson to be their quarterback. They know how special he is. They know what kind of energy he creates in their locker room, regardless of what he's been accused of. He's still that guy. So, like I talked about earlier, if we can just get him in the building, get him around those guys, let's just make it happen.
Yeah, as what Anish was saying, all the Texans teammates and all of Deshaun Watson's teammates on IG hyping him up in the comment section, whether it's on Twitter, IG, wherever it is, they're always hyping him up. It's like they haven't lost any love for him. Like all the legal stuff, it's just there, but it's like they're not really thinking too much about it. They're just thinking of the football Deshaun. They're not thinking of the person Deshaun. Whether I'm sure most of them love the football, the person Deshaun, other than the legal situation. But yeah, they're still gonna back the quarterback up. For now, he's still quarterback one, and they're gonna view him as that until things change. Whether it's a suspension, which as you were saying is very unlikely at this point. And yeah, one thing that I'm really, really looking forward to is seeing a Deshaun Watson versus Trevor Lawrence battle. The two former Clemson quarterbacks, the two former first round picks. It's gonna be very, very entertaining to watch.
Yeah, and also one thing to know, I think one of the NFL reporters said that the Texans' stance are still off on like keeping Deshaun Watson, but that can just be viewed like league sources are viewing like the Texans don't really want to keep Deshaun Watson, but that sentiment just could be from us drafting Davis Mills, who was kind of our like backup plan or slash insurance if whatever happened with the legal situation, but obviously that hasn't been resolved yet. So who knows? Like the Texans haven't been fielding trade calls. Um, Teams are still interested, so it's kind of like a tug of war battle right now. Um, but yeah, that's just like the current flux. It's going to be interesting to see if the Texans do decide to trade Deshaun Watson, whether they're going to excuse him from reporting a camp. But I really doubt that happens. If he's going to show up, just allow him to play, I guess, and don't send him out because that just kind of I don't think it would bode well for the whole team if they were to do that.
Yeah, and in my eyes, if they hold or excuse Deshaun Watson out for camp, whether it's preparing him for a trade or not risking him getting hurt or whatever, unless they have a trade ready for him, in my eyes, it kind of lowers his value. They're not letting him show up to camp. They're not letting him, I guess, show up to prove himself. I mean, he's already a proven quarterback, but to prove himself with all the pressure on his head right now, in my eyes, it just lowers his value. So, I mean, I don't really understand why the Texans would do that. I'm sure it's been thrown out there, but I mean, in my eyes, I just don't realistically see that happen.
I feel like his value hasn't really changed the entire offseason. We saw multiple reports about how teams were still making offers through the whole allegations coming up to the draft. Teams were throwing their entire draft at him, even after everything they heard about him. So I feel like if he plays or not, it doesn't shouldn't really matter if he's traded in the next season in the off season there or the trade deadline of this season. I feel like we're still gonna get a really big haul for Deshaun Watson. But of course, I think most of us are on the same page where we kind of want Deshaun Watson to stay. He was the heart and soul of this team. So I'm really hoping that things can work out here, but be ready for a trade.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you there. It's just a lot of mixed opinions around the Texans fan base, whether they still want Watson here, innocent or not, or whatever the case is. Just let me know your thoughts about Deshaun Watson reporting to training camp in the comment section below. And as always, be sure to like, subscribe, and turn on post notifications. Thank y'all for watching. Peace.